All right, Chris Alvarez, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How you doing?
I could not be doing better. Good to see you. And guys, welcome to the See It to Caesar stream. And so every week we try to bring you good content, somebody that's out there seeing success. I had one person ask me a while back, Chris, he said, is everybody successful? It just seems like everybody is doing well with FFL. And it was almost like he was saying it like he got afflicted with some plague or some condition where he was like the only one that hadn't succeeded yet. And I said, no, man, do you think we get the sucky ones on? He's like, that's true. I said, no, we get the ones that are doing well. I said, it's a process. So when you start doing well, you'll be able to talk about the process that you went through to get to a place where you're doing well. And so, man, if you can kind of kick it off and talk about that, talk about kind of the process when you started with Family First Life,
Yeah.
and now you're writing, the last 2 weeks, you issue paid 15,000 in a 2 week period. So that's a pace of 30,000 in a month in issue paid business. And I think most people that are watching this right now, they're thinking, hey, I wouldn't mind issue paying 30,000. And so the beautiful thing about what we do, like, is that success leaves tracks. And what we do is we try to get people on the call that can say, hey, let me show you my tracks. Let me show you where to step, how to step. Like, don't step there. You see that leg? That was my leg. It blew off because I stepped there. You don't want to do that. And you can kind of help them through that process of getting to the other side. So, man, if you could talk about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for hopping on with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Paul. Yeah. No. So I mean, I'm a big believer of faith. That's one of the things that the Lord led me here to Family First Life, and just having a lot of faith going into it and just trusting the process. But I think what would help people out is is you know uh, listening to your upline, getting on the calls. If you're a starting agent, get on the calls, and not only just get on the calls, but take action on them, right? Because sometimes we can listen to things and we just don't do anything about it. But as you want to get to work. The bottom line, right? So I think what happened with me in the beginning was just from coming from a background of not having to pay for leads, and kind of having that mindset to going to, hey, I got to buy my own leads. But I think it was you or Andrew Paul that talked about, you grow that it's like a muscle that you grow, like your tolerance. That's what
Yeah.
you use. You use the tolerance. So you just invest a little into the business. You make some money. You put it back in the business, and you just keep doing that cycle, and you just watch it grow. But I wouldn't been able to do it without the leadership from Family First Life. The belief that you have believed in me, Teresa, from the beginning. The help that I've got from the team, and not only that. I remember last year in Christmas, right? The Christmas party. I was
Yeah.
like, brand new. I don't even think I had written anything. I was just there. So what Teresa said, hey, this could be you. This could be you getting an award, or this could be you producing. This is what made my belief. This what made my belief to believe that there's a lot of people succeeding. It's not just me. So going to that Christmas party, seeing everybody, all the people, it wasn't just one or two, it was a lot of people getting a miracle bonus, a lot of people getting awards. And it just being around people who are succeeding just makes your belief, even your mindset, even stronger. And now, right now, I mean, I got an email just this morning. I'm at 39,000 for a miracle and we got, like, I think a couple months left, about a month and a half or two left. So I'm already at the bonus. So
That's
that's,
awesome, man.
yeah. So
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a couple things that you're speaking about, and I'm like, this is really good stuff, and I think it's very applicable to the See It to Seize It stream. See, I think a lot of times in the beginning, everybody comes on with a different kind of, like, I guess, preconceived thought process of like what it should look like. And it's usually based off of prior experience, So if an agent that came on board like yourself and you weren't buying leads, you might see a positive as a negative because you don't quite know yet. The interpretation is based off of prior experience, not based off of somebody that can show you how to make 300,000-400,000 a year. In the prior experience you had, it wasn't like you were making 30,000-40,000 a month. You were struggling, so you're like, I got to do something different, right? Which is what led you to FFL. But once you kind of start getting on the calls and then you hear the repetition of message, I always say what you think isn't, and what you think isn't is. Like for me, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like this is how I see it. But once I see it from a different set of eyes through calls and meetings, and then I'm like, wow, I saw it incorrectly. The perspective is really this angle, and this angle leads me to this level. And I think that's what you're saying is like, as you guys started, you say, man, leads, I wasn't used to buying them. And so you can say, well, that kind of sucks. But then you start getting around and realizing, no, that's a good thing. You weren't buying them because they were crap, right? Like they're old and the comp was low and all that stuff. And so when you just break it down and say, man, if you just made the same amount of sales in a situation where the leads were free for a reason, right? If you made the same amount of sales because your comp's so much higher with FFL, that alone will pay for all the leads, and you getting new qualified leads will allow you to double your sales. So your net is like 100-fold. Does that make sense? And so, but it's hard to see it. You kind of come on board, and I get this all the time. Like, man, I'm just not used to buying leads. Well, that's a good thing. Like I used to not be used to, snowboarding with the right stance. And guess what? I kept falling on my face. And I got uncomfortable and I started leaning. The guy's like, you got to lean like back. And I was like, I don't lean back because then I'll fall on my butt, and I'd rather fall on like my knees than my butt, because you're going to mess up a tailbone. That's like the bone you don't want to mess with. You know what I mean? It's just not fun. But, a lot of times we got to get the right stance and posture to set ourselves up. And it's just coming and getting around it. And, to the point of the Christmas party, because it wasn't a sales training event, right? It wasn't like, and our sales training, right, Chris, like you've been to many boot camps, it's training. It's not like, Chris, you look pretty, give you a hug, smack on your butt, like you're a winner. Like it's none of that stuff, like where it's like we're trying to rah. It is straightforward. This is what you say. This is how you say it. This is what it is. But the Christmas party wasn't like that. It was a social gathering, right? It was us to come together as a team and really celebrate the year of successes. And would you say, Chris, that Christmas party, coming around and just seeing different successes might have been just as important as going to a meeting that gave you practicality what to do?
Yeah, I think they're all just as equally important. But I think at that time it was just one of those triggers that it triggered for me. Just thinking back now, because I saw the miracle thing, the bonus I'm getting, and being there when I was at the Christmas party, and just now how it's all coming together. I see, man, that I'm glad that I went, because I was on the fence to going to the party, right? And I'm glad that I went. But then we also had I went to the conference, the big conference before the November conference last year. I helped. I haven't missed a conference yet, especially the ones that come here in Vegas. So definitely, and that's something that I recommend to everybody. You want to go to these conferences. The level of belief, you'll always learn something new. Every time I'm somewhere, so there's always something, that one thing that I learned that you can implement out in the field. So that's huge for sure.
Hey, Chris, you know how many bonus checks were given out at last year's Christmas party? Like what the total amount that was handed out?
I don't.
And it was over $100,000 in bonus checks that Americo passed out. And the cool thing is they're non-chargebackable, and the company already pays out crazy good comp. And then they say on top of that, we're going to give you 8% on whatever you've paid for that period of time. And so that was one of I remember, like, because sometimes I'll forget something, but I won't forget how I felt. And I remember sitting there and the feeling I had when Bobby's like, hey, this person, Dan wrote, here's a $5,000 check, and John, here's a $12,000 check. I'm sitting there thinking like, man, this is so cool that a week before Christmas, families get a bonus check put in their hand to go out there and have that better Christmas, and so it's kind of cool how it's set up like that. Well, I got a question for you, but I want to make one comment to that whole situation. Like the one thing I know is there's seasons in everything, right?
Yeah.
There's like, you look at winter, summer, spring, fall. I mean, we're in October now, and it's the same thing in business. You go through certain seasons, and so there were seasons where I was going through more of a valley where I was putting in the work and I was giving it what I had, but I didn't see a lot of progress. And I think that's one of the most discouraging seasons is like, I'm giving it all I've got, but I look up and I'm like, where's the progress? Where's the results? And in those seasons, I really needed the meeting, not just for a course correction to get back on track, but also as a belief in the fact that this does work. Slumps are real. Everybody does deal with this. And at the end of the year, if you're still making a couple $100,000, like you're not even going to remember that 2-3 weeks that you're off. But I think the meetings with the practicality of this is what you do, what your in-home should be, this is what your lead strategy should be, all this stuff, the belief of getting around people that are like-minded, it's such a big deal. And I just say that because I know your point in the beginning was, Paul, I get on the conference calls. I don't miss a meeting. And I don't want people to lose that because it sounds like just something that's simple, Chris, like, hey, don't get on the conference call or get on all the calls. But has it ever been kind of difficult for you to get on the calls and show up to meetings? Let me ask you this. When is it more difficult? Do you feel like it's ever a little bit more tempting to not get on the calls or go to the meetings being in this business, or is it always easy for you? I mean, what does that look like?
Well, for the meetings, it's always easy for me. Sometimes for the calls, I might have an appointment or something, and I got to do that. But I try not to miss any of the phone calls. But yeah, no, it's. I know it helps you out. So it's like you learn from the calls and you learn from the conferences, and it helps you being in. It's like being connected, right? It helps you being connected. That's why it's easy for me to get on them for that reason.
I love it. Well, for me, like I know if I was having a bad week, I would be like, man, I'm going to dial instead of hopping on a call. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Or am I just the guilty one? Am I the one that's shame? But like I would feel like, man, if I'm having a bad day, I need to go in the field and run appointments instead of go to the meeting. I've been tempted sometimes. And then I always have to sit back and say, shoot, if I'm not, it doesn't make any sense, that thought process, because if I'm not seeing the right results, I need to get back and see the model that needs to be duplicated so I know what to course correct. It's kind of like, have you ever golfed, Chris?
No, I'm not good at it.
Okay. Well, you've never golfed. I've golfed probably 80 times. You're probably just as good as I am. Because I'll still go out there and I'll hit, and I'm like, I'm positive that I'm going to break something. When you hit it, when you know you hit it so far right that it clears the house, and on the other side of the house there's a road, so you're thinking you might not have hit a house but a car. That's how my slice goes. But I don't know why I'm doing it. But if somebody stands behind me and they say, dude, you're lifting up, like you're moving your whole body, like you got to stay focused. And then I'm like, oh shoot, you're right, I am doing that. But when I'm in it, I can't see it. And if I can't see it, I can't correct it. But when they're behind me and they're not in it, it's not this close, their perspective is different. And then they can say, you got to stay more, you can't move, keep your head down, make sure you just move your shoulders. And all of a sudden it's fixed. But, I think it's just like anything, man. Like it's like working out. You don't feel like going to the gym after you pounded a bag of Twinkies.
Yeah.
That's when you need to go. You know what I mean? Like you go now, go. But when you're going all the time, it's easier, So I think that it's one of those non-negotiables. Like you just have to always get on all the calls and training because that's valuable. What's the biggest thing you took from a meeting or a conference call? Like the biggest tip you can give us that you've gathered being in all these calls and being in all the meetings? What's a big takeaway that you've got?
The biggest one. That's just a lot of them. But I think in the beginning, I think it's just investing in your business, getting the leads, getting your strategy on, and because without leads, we don't have any business. So I think that's the big takeaway in the beginning was that, and then the rest of it is like sharpening your sword, just knowing what to do in the in-home and those type of things. But the main thing is you gotta put your money back in the business, and that's what grows it. Trey said, it can't be a Scrooge. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
said you can't just count all your pennies. You got to put it back in your business so that it can grow. And so I think that's buying leads, being consistent with that, fresh leads every week, and you got to work. You can't just buy leads and sit home and do nothing. You got to go out and work. So I don't think there's a magic pill to take, right? It's you just got to go buy leads and get to work. That's just
Yeah.
how it is.
I agree, man. Some people think there's like a silver bullet,
But
and it's just it
I
does
wanted to
not.
say that what I was going to say, I just thought about it with a Christmas party. You used to say, you were on a call, you used to say, hey, his Christmas is definitely not going to suck. That's
Right.
now that I'm thinking of it, my Christmas isn't going to suck this year. That's
That's
that's a
right, man.
that's a huge thing, and I'm very grateful for that because I remember where I was at last Christmas and how I am now, and my Christmas ain't definitely not going to suck this year. And the way things are going, and so I thank you for that,
Well, you did the work, man. I mean, you went out there and you took action, because it's one thing to come and hear, right, and hear what to do and how to do it. It's a different thing to do it. And I like what the scripture says, man. The person that builds their house on the rock, the right foundation, that digs deep, that comes, hears, and does. When stuff comes, when broke thought processes come, when bad belief systems comes, when four chargebacks come, like, it won't waver. It'll stand strong. It'll show its resilience. It'll show the magnitude. But if you just come in here and you do nothing, man, the moment something comes, boom, that thing's going to drop. It's going to drop vehemently. It'll be a great destruction. And so I think that this is the stuff that keeps that foundation strong, man. And I appreciate you hopping on and sharing with us. Chris, let me ask you this as we wrap up. What do you invest in leads each week?
I want to say at least $1,000 a week. Yeah, it just depends. Every week's a little different, not a whole much different, but on average, I would say 1,000 a week.
And it's kind of hard not to go to work when you've got $1,000 to invest. It's like you always want to create the buy-in principle for yourself. Like, if you really want to lose weight, you do what? You get a personal trainer, because you're paying for them, waiting for you. You do not want to not show up. And so I think that's one of the best things you could do is invest in leads, and then you're more likely to keep disciplined to dialing. And don't head fake yourself. Chris, I had this one agent that they would like, I'd say, hey, did you get your lead order? Oh, I forgot. Like, they didn't forget. They just thought that if they didn't invest on that Friday, that they would keep, $300 more. And because I talked to them, like, and that's kind of what it boiled down to. Is I know you're not keeping 300. You're losing what the 300 would yield. So you're losing like $2,500. And she's like, oh, you're right. So, but hey, man, great call. Thank you for hopping on, man. Appreciate you. Love seeing you win. And when I say, man, I'm proud of you, and I love knowing that your Christmas is better this year than last year because of the work you put in and you took advantage of the opportunity. You came, heard, and you did. I'm excited. You saw and you seized, man. So appreciate you, Chris. Thank you, man.
God bless you, man. Take care. All right.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.